Hi, I'm Tim Berglund with Confluent. I'd like to tell you all... Why am I a potato? Hi, I'm Tim Berglund. Really? Hi, I'm Tim Berglund, in my home office this time, for obvious reasons, to tell you all about Confluent Platform 5.5. Now, most of the features in 5.5 are really developer-oriented, if you kind of break them down. That always makes me happy, so let's dive in and take a look. They really fall into three categories. One has to do with improved schema management, one has to do with better support for languages that aren't Java, and the other is a set of upgrades to ksqlDB. Let's look at each one of these in turn. Now, if you're like me and you talk to people about Confluent Platform and Apache Kafka, and you talk about Confluent Schema Registry and the importance of schema management to evolutionary architecture and kind of a more fluid ability to migrate producers and consumers and upgrade those programs, there's just so many things that are important about it. If you talk to people about this, somebody might have asked you, hey, when's there going to be support for Protobuf? I think that's happened to me, I want to say at least 6 times. It could be more. That's just a minimum. Certainly there's been interest in this. But the great news is in Confluent Platform 5.5, not only is there support for Protobuf, but there's also support for JSON. So these are great. And JSON, let's not let that go unremarked either. A lot of people seem to have this idea that if you format messages in JSON, you standardize on that as your serialization format, then you obviously don't care about schema at all, and you just want to watch the world burn, and it's that's not really what it means to pick JSON. The good news is now Schema Registry supports it. So you've got JSON, Protobuf, and Avro as first-class citizens of the Confluent Schema Registry. And to get that done, to add support for those other two that are not Avro, we had to make schema support pluggable. So there's also a plugin API. So if you've got a serialization format you want to add, you can do that. You can implement that API and support that non-Avro, non-Protobuf, non-JSON format if you'd like. And this isn't just for Schema Registry and whatever producers and consumers you might happen to write. It's all across Confluent Platform. So that's Connect, that's Kafka Streams, ksqlDB, REST Proxy, Control Center, even the Confluent Server broker side schema validation feature that was new in 5.4. Across the whole platform, you've got support for these things and for whatever plugins you might write as well. So much more robust serialization support in Schema Registry. I'm so happy to announce this, and I hope you love it too. Now, if you use the Java library for interfacing with Confluent Platform, for producing messages, consuming messages, the Java is the natively supported library that's a part of Apache Kafka. So every time there's a Kafka release, if there's new features, they're in the Java library. Languages that aren't Java usually are based on a library, a permissively licensed open source library called librd Kafka. So they're typically librd Kafka based. And that's certainly the case with the other languages of the Confluent Platform that are not Java. That's Go, Python, C, C++, and languages of the .NET platform. Those are all based on librd Kafka. Well, librd Kafka has recently been upgraded to support the exactly once-semantics feature set that has been a part of the Java library since the spring of 2017. That's 3 years as of the time of this recording. It's been in the Java version. That's been a supported feature of Kafka, and now it's supported for the librd Kafka-based languages as well. So if you're using one of those supported libraries in Confluent Platform, Go, Python, C, C++, some .NET language, now you have access to EOS, to exactly once semantics, exactly once message processing. Hugely important. This is a feature that some use cases absolutely rely on. And if you've been looking in wistfully to your friends who are Java developers who have been processing messages exactly once for 3 years now, and you're just wishing you could, well, now you can. Today's your day, so check it out. In terms of other multi-language support, we have the REST proxy. Now, traditionally, the REST proxy is for producing and consuming messages, and it is an HTTP interface. So if you've got a language that can establish a TCP socket and append strings, I think that's what it takes. You could probably use REST proxy. So very, very broad cross-platform, multi-language kind of interface, but traditionally just a producer and consumer. And for any admin operations you had to perform, you would have had to shell out to a command line tool, use Control Center, or use the Java admin client interface by actually writing Java code, which wasn't, if you're using REST proxy, maybe that wasn't the language you even wanted to use. So now the good news, REST proxy supports admin operations. We can do things like list and describe brokers, create, delete, describe, list topics, describe and alter configs for topics. Some of those core admin functions are now available through that REST interface. Finally, let's look at Confluent Platform's own event streaming database, ksqlDB. Now, as you may know, ksqlDB is available independently. It is its own project. You can go to ksqldb.io and check that out. You can use it against any Kafka cluster you want. But if you're a Confluent Platform user, obviously you want to use the version that comes bundled to the platform and that is integrated with the platform. And as of 5.5, ksqlDB gets an upgrade to version 0.7. And there are a few important features that 0.7 has. There's a new aggregate function, count distinct, which does exactly what it sounds like. That counts distinct values within a field. Imagine you had, I don't know, a stream with user data, including addresses, and you wanted to know how many unique postal codes occurred within a 5-minute window. Well, that would now be trivial to do with a ksqlDB query, now that we have count distinct. There's also support for more data types. Traditionally, the key of a stream or a table, so that's the key in the underlying topic, had to be a string. Well, now it can be an int, a big int, or a double. So you've got a little bit more flexibility there. Finally, pull queries, which are a preview feature as of 5.5 still, got an availability upgrade. Now, let me just remind you quickly what a pull query is. Imagine in ksqlDB, if you're computing some aggregate over an event stream, that aggregate's going to be a table, right? By nature, if you aggregate a stream, that structure you end up with is a table. That is, it's some state that you've got in memory. Well, what do you want to do with state? You might want to ask questions about it. A pull query is just like a query on a row in a table. So if a ksqlDB query creates a table, results in a table in any way, you want to interrogate a specific row of that table, just like you would in any database, that is what ksqlDB calls a pull query. Now that's to differentiate it from a push query, which is a different thing entirely, and I don't want to go into a full ksqlDB tutorial right now. Point being, pull queries get an availability upgrade. What that means is doing a pull query on a particular row, that row is going to be represented by the replica leader in the ksqlDB cluster. If that node is down, if there's a follower replica that can be queried, that query will try to fail that over to that follower. So you just got higher availability in pull queries as that feature becomes more robust and it marches along towards generally available status in Confluent Platform in the future. Finally, the flow view. Now, when you're debugging a traditional database application, what do you want to look at? Well, you want to look at an ERD, right? An entity relationship diagram of how your tables relate, just to kind of remind you of your view of the data. And then generally, you want to look at tables and inspect the results of queries. There's a lot of tabular views. Well, in a stream processing program, like you're going to build with ksqlDB, you tend to think of flows. There's some source of records, and there's a query that processes them. And its output then might feed a couple more ksqlDB queries, whose output might themselves fan out to other queries and then be joined into a combined result. This sort of thing happens. You get these interesting graphs, and you want to look at that. Well, Confluent Control Center gives you that flow view of sources to sinks, and it now lets you visualize, gives you that flow view for your ksqlDB applications. So specifically, if you've got a particular ksqlDB application running on a ksqlDB cluster, you want to know what are the tables and streams and queries that are running in that thing. You just get to see what's going on in there in Control Center. And you can drill down into those tables or streams quickly to visualize their schema. I can see, well, here I'm looking at a table and it's got 4 columns in it. I look at that schema. I could go click on messages and I could see what the records are in that table as they are changing as the stream processing application runs. Likewise, I could go look at a stream, look at its schema, look at its messages. So that's the typical bread and butter sort of visualization you want for a stream processing program. You could do that with your ksqlDB applications now. Also, you can look at query nodes in the flow. It's great to look at streams and tables and what's going on, but then you need to see what is the code that's causing that result to happen, and is the code correct? So I can, by clicking on one of those query nodes, look at the ksql code that's running in it. So that's 3 buckets of, I think, pretty helpful developer-oriented functionality in Confluent Platform 5.5. You had the improvements to schema registries, that's Protobuf and JSON support, now native, and the API, so you can write pluggable support for serialization format of your choice. That was the improvements to non-Java languages, exactly once-semantics supported in the other languages, Go, Python, C, C++, and .NET languages supported in Confluent Platform. They have the OS now too. And ksqlDB 0.7 with those new features in ksqlDB. So there you go. I hope you enjoy all this. Stay safe and let us know what you build.